I had a client, we did a living trust. They had a good sized estate. The assets were growing. Wife had cancer. Things got bad. Anyway, the wife died. And we learned later that the financial advisor moved like $3 million out of the trust and made it joint with Right of Survivor, probably thinking they were doing a favor. But what that did is it gutted the estate tax planning and ultimately is costing the family about $240,000 because of the assets that were moved out of the trust. The annual review with the attorney is priceless, really.
Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show.
And welcome everyone to Answers for Elders Radio Network, heard across the USA on your favorite podcast channel and also on YouTube. And we've been talking this hour to Steve Waltar, who is an estate planning attorney, and we're talking about estate planning documents, how to, when to renew. So if you've missed the first few segments, please go back and check them out. So we're going to talk right now in this segment about keeping estate plan documents and all the things, your wishes current. How do you do that? So Steve, welcome back.
Glad to be back.
What is the answer to that question? I know a lot of people that they draft up their documents and they get notarized. And then what happens is that they put them on they probably put them in their safety deposit box or, in a file someplace and they forget about it. And it's what happens?
Yeah, that happens a lot. Powers of attorney will can be in effect for 80 years. Mm-hmm. But is that wise? Like if you buy a car, would it be wise to never, ever maintain it?
Yeah.
Would it? Of course not. Would it be, how about to never fuel it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's my analogy, right? A good car, you would take a look at it. You'd keep it maintained. You keep it fueled. It's going to run most efficiently. Mm-hmm. So as a rule, we say, gosh, people ought to come in every 5 years. Or if there's a change, they come to us. But I've had enough clients say, Steve, I want to make sure it's current. And I thought about the idea of like insurance. And I thought, hey, we insure things to make sure they're going to work. And so we developed something called a VIP plan. And for $600 a year, our clients get our VIP plan. And what that means is they get 1 hour with an attorney. That's already worth over $600.
That's right.
And they get updates. Like if you have changed the name of your agent and your powers of attorney, your healthcare, your will, you get those all routinely updated. And when the law changes, those are just so easy to update. You also, for the trust clients, they get to update their assets. How often do your assets change? A lot, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a way to like make sure you're meeting with an attorney. Routine things are just kind of included. Yeah. And what if you have family that comes in? They get a discount then because like you're a part of this membership. Right?
Oh, that's great.
And then also the reason we did this is I was just so concerned, like when kids go off to college, I'm an estate planner. So my kids, when they turned 18, they got powers of attorney, they got healthcare, they got HIPAA, all that stuff. But think a lot of my clients, their kids go off to college, something happens and the parents can't even be notified about the medical status of their daughter or their son because they don't have a HIPAA authorization.
Oh my goodness.
So our VIP means you get free healthcare powers and HIPAA authorizations and all that for your kids up to age 25.
Wow.
That's a huge benefit.
It's totally a huge benefit. And to think about, how often do we realize that our kids may be, in their 30s and not married and alone, but they're still hanging back at mom or dad's house. It happens all the time these days with this generation. And if they're over 18, like you said, you're not notified. You're not given any information unless you have that form.
Well, sadly, we've probably got 3 probates right now where kids have died. The parents are doing something regarding their parents or the sibling, but their kids have died. But regardless of that, once someone's an adult, especially if they're single, they ought to have someone that has power of attorney to do things if need be.
Sure, obviously. And to make sure that those are put in proper, scenario. And, you know, I think using the analogy of maintaining your car, it's something that I think is peace of mind to know
Yeah,
that you always
right.
have, you know, scenarios. There's also ways in which, you know, you can can touch base with you once a year because life happens, right? We have a new grandchild, we have new situations, and that is the stuff that goes on constantly. Is
What
it?
about the peace of mind when you're going to hop on that plane? Oh, is this valid anymore? I did this little something to try to list
Yeah.
the party in to try. No, if you're
Mm-hmm.
meeting annually, you're going to have things updated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I just bought a new life insurance policy, or I just, you know, there's so many things that go on through the year that you don't even think about.
That is a really good point. Assets. So I had a client, we did a living trust, they had a good sized estate, the assets were growing. Um, Wife had cancer, things got bad. We did some reviewing of you know, what was needed for healthcare powers and stuff like that, and figured everything was anyway. The wife died, and we learned later that the financial advisor moved like $3 million out of the trust and made it joint with Right of Survivor, probably thinking they were doing a favor. But what that did is it gutted the estate tax planning, and ultimately is costing the family about $240,000 because of the assets that were moved out
Oh,
of the
no.
trust. So again, the annual review with the attorney is priceless, really.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you catch those sort of things when you look at who is the owner, who are the beneficiaries, who should they be. We get
Mhm.
into all sorts of mistakes and bad habits about how we own things and who we have as beneficiaries. It's good to review that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you think about, you know, like, that keeping current, and then it goes right back to, you know, you being a part of the American Academy of State Planning Attorneys. The thing that I'm struck by is the fact that you have so much continuing education. It's part of you keeping current, and there's a
Right.
lot of attorneys out there that don't have as much requirement, and um they may not, you know, they may do things like the financial planner did,
I'm
not
shocked
realizing
to
it.
think that attorneys that do divorce law also do wills. I realize when someone files for divorce, like we talked about earlier, you need to update your plan. But if they're doing wills and powers of attorney, they're held to the highest standard under the law, as if they're a
Yeah.
specialist like myself, and you know, we're in the field of estate planning.
You do webinars as well, do you not?
We do. And for our, I mean, everyone here can go to our website and
Do.
get access to webinars and updating things. Our VIP people, they get, you know, 24-hour access to email replies because we get busy, and they get extra webinars. They kind of get the cutting edge. They get things like, you know, even before we hand it out to the community.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, well, and that's certainly important to look at that, and how you can basically look forward. And then you talk about family meetings, bringing the family members into a meeting like once a year or whatever that is. How does that work?
Yeah, so we encourage people to bring their kids to the signing of the plan initially. If they're in state or whatever, we can make that
Hmm.
work out. But a lot of times, part of this VIP thing is that they want the kids. They're flying in for Thanksgiving or Christmas, or they're here and they want to have a family meeting. So that we're kind of the
Hmm.
referee. We can talk
Yeah,
about the plan. We can explain the tax plan, or you know, it's. I think it's just great when people are willing to communicate that with the family.
absolutely.
And the kids find it kind of a little nerve wracking, but it's helpful to kind of be talking about this stuff.
Well, it is. And, you know, to have the peace of mind to and have those conversations, those hard conversations, they are difficult. But the thing that I think that is so important is when you have those conversations, um, you know, you don't, there's a peace of mind that everybody has together because you know what's going to happen. I know it was really hard with my parents' generation. They didn't talk about the hard stuff ever. And it was like, I remember finally one time I knew I had to have a conversation with my mother. And so I took her to dinner. And of course, this is when she still drank alcohol. And so she had a couple martinis. And I said, Mom, I need to talk to you about something that's really difficult because I want to honor your wishes. And she and I had that conversation, and I am so glad that we did, because it was very difficult for me to really determine, what her wishes would have been. I would have been way off base had I not heard what her wishes were. And then when I knew exactly what we needed to do. And one of the first things I did was I prepaid her funeral expenses.
Yeah.
Because I knew that would be something that we would be dealing with. And so that was one of the things when we were doing a spend down for Medicaid for her. That's the first thing we did, was took care of that.
Yeah, I think that by talking, you're communicating wishes and intent. You can kind of get rid of hard feelings. You reach understanding. It's more likely to work.
Yep.
I mean, when someone actually dies, then it's less likely to cause turmoil.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And I knew
most people don't want to leave a mess, but
yeah,
a lot of people do leave a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's what's so important. And obviously for you, your Legacy VIP program, can you get more information on your website over that?
You can. There's actually a link to that. If you go to waltar.com, you can find the Legacy plan. I think it's under our services or something like that. Another peace of mind thing I was thinking of is most people don't travel with their powers of attorney, right? They don't take them with them, right? Unless you're in the middle of a divorce and you're like, it's someone. But with our VIP people, we do something called DocuBank, where your documents, in particular, your healthcare power, your HIPAA, your living will, all those things are up on the cloud. And you've got something in your wallet, right? You've got like a card. It's a lot like it's like a credit card, and it's got the PIN number. First, it says your agent. Like for me, it's my wife. It's her cell number. But even if you can't reach the person, you can call DocuBank, give the PIN number, and then have your healthcare documents faxed to any hospital in the world.
Amazing.
Boom, boom, boom.
Amazing.
Like
amazing. Yeah. And obviously this applies to your clients, but what if someone has documents drafted by someone else?
As far as, do we review them, or are you talking about on the cloud? Yeah, we review other people's documents. I never start with them. I mean, someone can come and say, look at this. And I'm like, you haven't given me the framework. Tell me what you're about, what your assets are, what your kids are, what are your goals? I always have to know that. Then I can very quickly look at, 50 pages, 100 pages, 20 pages, and I can, I can say, hey, this meets your wishes or it doesn't. I would not want my parents to have this, or I'd say you're great,
Well, and these are all important things. So Steve, thank you so much for being on our show. And again, Legacy Estate Planning Attorneys, you can actually go to his Steve's website at www.waltar, that's WALTAR.com, and your phone number is
455-6788.
425-455-6788. I should remember that. That's a pretty easy number.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on the show again, Steve. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.